So hello everyone, my name is Lisa Wade and I am chair of the International Actuarial Association's Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. This year, the IAA recognized International Day of Persons with Disabilities and decided to feature the stories of inspiring actuaries who are differently abled. One such actuary is Professor Garrett Slattery, who will be introduced today by past president of the Actuarial Society of South Africa and a very dedicated IAA volunteer, Peter Whitby. Peter?
Hi there, Lisa and Garrett. And it's a pleasure to be able to introduce Garrett. Garrett is one of the as I've been thinking about this, Garrett is one of the icons of the profession in South Africa. I don't know how many, he'd probably be able to tell you, but I don't know how many actuaries have gone through his hands as the head of the actuarial program at one of our leading institutions that has an actuarial program that's accredited with the Actuarial Society of South Africa. And so Garrett has been formative in the lives of many actuaries in the country. And he does that despite, as you said, being differently abled and achieving some significant achievements, as I understand it, outside of the pure actuarial profession. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Garrett to you today. And I'll hand back to you with that.
Thank you so much, Peter. And Garrett, we are so pleased that you're willing to share of your time and share of your remarkable life story with us. So Garrett, I'll just, ask you a couple questions and we'll have a chat about your life journey. So tell us something about your formative years.
Thank you. Well, firstly, thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the kind words in opening there. So I lost my sight through a degenerative condition round about age 9 or 10, which took my eyesight from being perfect at the time down to a visual acuity of around 10%, which typically means one can see the top letter on an eye chart from the optometrist's chair. And in the 50 years since then, the sight has gone down, but to a manageable level, and probably now under 5% acuity. It was obviously at the time quite a shock to me and the parents. It was noticed through school that I could no longer see the board sitting at the back and moved steadily forward towards the blackboard in class and found it more difficult to read printed material. My parents at the time, probably more concerned than me as a 9-year-old, but sent me to learn Braille, which fortunately I've never needed to use. But other than that, as a youngster, you adapt and get on with things. And my parents moved out to South Africa in my early teens, and I stayed in a mainstream school environment, just using magnification lenses or a little telescopic monocular to be able to read the blackboards.
Okay, so did you always have a love for mathematics?
I guess I did. I mean, it was something I've always enjoyed. With the sight going down, one of the challenges was reading tons of material. So perhaps from that perspective, mathematics became even more enjoyable because you don't need to sit and read huge volumes of textbooks, etc. The world was a different place when I was at school in the 70s and there. Mm-hmm. That we didn't have fancy enlargement software and screen readers like I make use of at the moment. But maths always was a love, and I'd started my university qualification studying pure mathematics, and it was only part way through that qualification that I really learned about actuarial science and thought it might be a way to earn a living at the end of the day.
So how did you hear about the actuarial profession? You said you heard about it partway through your qualification process, which for many of us who are in the profession now, we heard about it pretty early on when we were at school level. So how did you hear about the profession?
Mm. So certainly in our schooling environment, and I think it's one of the challenges we face in the South African profession today, is that the actuarial profession is really not well known outside of a relatively small pocket. I was at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg when one of the leading figures in actuarial education, Professor Casper Greef, was setting up an actuarial program. And that was in my second year of study. And I attended a few of his classes, which sort of whetted the appetite. I didn't complete it in my degree and started correspondence study through the Institute of Actuaries while I was completing a master's in pure maths.
So you've done quite a few other qualifications. So what other qualifications have you pursued besides doing an undergraduate degree in mathematics and your fellowship through the International Faculty, the Institute of Faculty and Actuaries?
Yeah, so as my first love was mathematics, and I did a master's and a doctorate PhD in pure mathematics. I figured that wasn't necessarily the most practical way to earn a living at the end of the day. And yeah, then during the end of that master's and beginning of the PhD, I'd started with the actuarial, writing the technical exams just through correspondence. And then after my PhD, I finished off the remaining sort of practice-based examinations.
Okay, so you've gone down a road most actuaries haven't gone down, in that you
Yeah.
also have a PhD, which gave you a lot more flexibility with respect to your career choices. So I just want to talk a bit about the qualification process. You said you did it by correspondence with the then Institute of Actuaries. So
Yeah.
how did you find writing the examinations? Did they give you any special accommodations to assist you?
Yeah, so the only sort of accommodation I'd been given at university, which then the Institute continued with, was extra writing time. And at that stage, like I say, there wasn't the option of typing exams electronically, which is now a format we use in South Africa for all of the later exams. I didn't, we weren't using computers with screen enlarging software, etc. So it was all handwritten, and at that stage I was probably relying on a sort of 10 times magnification to read, so it was slow. And yeah, the extra writing time was how that was accommodated.
So after you got your qualification, you worked in industry for a while. So how did you find doing the practical work that you had been reading about in your textbooks?
Yeah, so it was enjoyable. We had a very good team that I was working with at one of the big insurance companies in Johannesburg. We were developing healthcare product at the time, and it was sort of towards the end of that period of probably 3 years that a position came up at the University of Cape Town, and it just seemed, I just felt I could maybe influence more people through a role as a lecturer rather than in an insurance company. And yeah, the challenges are quite different, but yeah, I've certainly enjoyed the move. And 10 years after joining UCT, I was approached by Stellenbosch University to come through to take the professorship and head the program there. And that's where I've been for 20 years. So it's been enjoyable.
As Peter said, you've played a remarkable role in shaping the minds of so many persons in this generation of actuaries within South Africa. What would you say some of your more rewarding moments have been whilst you've been teaching?
Yeah, so I think in general, I find teaching as an activity rewarding. From the class interaction, from first year level through to honors or master's level, the interactions are quite different, but it is enjoyable to try to challenge the young minds. And present materials. So that's always rewarding. And then it really is great to see the students come through at the end of the day, as Peter said, and ultimately go on and achieve success and qualify as actuaries. It just does feel nice at the end of the day to have played a small part in that. Not that my lecturing is particularly fantastic, but to have played a role maybe to help them structure their way of going about things. And
I fully understand. Fully understand. I mean, I taught for a very short while in the undergraduate actuarial science program at our regional university, the University of West Indies. And whenever I encounter any of my students, at a professional conference or, in a professional interaction, I feel this tremendous sense of pride, that I had that small role and I helped them in some way to become and to develop into the professional that they've become. So I can truly, agree and empathize. I have not played anywhere near the role that you've played, but I do understand how rewarding it really is to see persons progress to that level.
I do think I've perhaps been at it too long when the children of people that have now qualified as actuaries are now in my class as well.
Well, that just means that you're just helping them pass on another generation. That's all.
we should call you the intergenerational actuary then.
Exactly. So Garrett, I mean, what are your views on some of the biggest opportunities out there for the actuarial profession? Those young minds that you're helping to shape. What are the things that they're interested in seeing the actuarial profession do, and the areas that they're interested in seeing, where opportunities can lie for them when they finish qualifying?
Yeah, so the actuarial world, certainly in our country, has changed in the time that I've been involved. I mean, almost everybody initially was in life insurance or pensions, and that world has broadened. We have a very big healthcare industry here. We have a lot of actuaries in the investment world, in banking, in consulting, with auditing firms. So the opportunities for actuaries are getting ever wider. We did a research project many years ago when we asked some of the chief executives, did they think this new computer world with PCs was going to damage what actuaries could do and take their jobs away from them? And there was an overwhelming feeling that that was not the case. And it feels very similar to the world we're in now with artificial intelligence. The fact that it may be simple to generate answers doesn't make those answers right. And it makes it even more important for somebody that can understand how those answers were produced and what false assumptions or hallucinations your AI may be suggesting. So I think the role of actuaries will be an important one going forward as well as technologies continue to change.
So Garrett, what you may or may not know is that Peter is actually chair of the International Actuarial Association's Artificial Intelligence Task Force. So, I mean, I'm wondering if the two of you can give your views perhaps on the role that artificial intelligence can play in terms of leveling the field and opening the gateway to the profession for persons who are differently able.
I'd be happy if Peter would like to pick up, and I'll see if I can add anything.
So I probably can't really speak to the differently abled leg of it, but I think that it's the comment that has been used by the president of the IAA a number of times is that the actuary with AI will replace the actuary without AI, as opposed to AI will replace the actuary. So I strongly believe that AI will become a tool. I think it's the old dogs like myself that will have to learn how to utilize that as much as the youngsters coming up who will be, that will be natural for them. And I guess that the same sort of generation went through when Excel came in and things like that, and other technological tools throughout the generations of actuaries. And I like the idea of a term that we're coining in the AI task force at the moment, of the AI-enabled actuary, because I think that that's what we're going to see. And clearly AI, and this is me surmising, and I'll leave it to Garrett to talk to this in more detail, but I suspect that where AI will be able to help people who are differently abled is to put actual tools into the hands of those people. How we control it and how we manage it through the qualification process, I guess that's still a little bit of an open question as we go through. But I think it's going to become a natural tool as we go forward. Over to you, Garrett.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, we even at university level, we're exposing students in research topics to submitting material with AI intervention and drafting of stuff and getting them to comment on where the AI helped them and where it didn't. So I think those skills are just more and more at the fingertips of the youngsters. And like Peter said, it's us old dogs that need to learn some new tricks. In terms of how it will open doors, I mean, one of the good things about the actuarial profession, regardless of one's abilities or different abilities, is that there are different career paths that people can go down. So for those that enjoy the interaction with people or the interaction with modeling spreadsheets or whatever it is, there are various directions that people can go in. And I think the whole development of computers and software and AI as well is just going to allow those people, perhaps with different abilities, to fine-tune where it is that they end up and to make the use of those technologies. And where they're going to end up is anyone's guess.
I think it's really exciting what the future has to hold for us with respect to artificial intelligence. And I agree with you both that we should embrace the tools and embrace the opportunity. But yes, as a profession with standards and codes of conduct, we just need to make sure that we can find ways to use it responsibly. And of course, be able to scrutinize and understand fully the results that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So Garrett, in addition to being a trailblazing actuary, a shaper of future minds, you have also been the B2 World Champion blind golfer. So you represented South Africa at many levels internationally in blind golf, which is totally amazing, especially for someone like myself who went on the golf course, took a club, looked at it, and just like, I can't manage this.
Yeah,
I won't tell you where the ball went.
Well, I don't think any of our golf balls go where they're meant. I don't think the golf ball ever goes where it's meant to go. But it's one. So I was fortunate coming up through school that I was at a school with some very talented golfers who dragged me along and helped me sort of progress, because it's not the most obvious sport for someone that can't see where the ball goes. But it is a good sport. You're out, you're exercising. It's a personal challenge. I've played quite a bit of lawn bowls as well, and represented the country in that sphere. And it is good to just have something different to do, and some other sort of challenge, and gives you an excuse for going places as well. So it's been fun.
I won't embarrass you by reading out.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
One of my earliest memories of Garrett actually is on the golf course in an ASA golfing competition at the Actual Society of South Africa. And I remember him peering through his little eyeglass, and my initial reaction, because at that point in time I had no idea of his visual impairment at the time, I was thinking, but hang on, isn't that cheating? only to be quietly put in my place by whoever I was playing with to say, no, he needs it in order to be able to see where the ball's got to go. So Garrett, apologies for ever accusing you of cheating.
No, never crossed my mind. Yeah, it sometimes, the eye condition I have affects my central vision. So it means I can still sort of move around, but I have no detailed vision. So, sometimes when I finish a round of golf, but people are somewhat surprised to hear I'm actually a registered blind golfer. but it is good fun. It's a nice sport.
That is phenomenal. You have me thinking perhaps I should give this another try.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Not sure about the hand-eye coordination though. Not sure about it. Not I don't think I have the skills that you and Peter both possess. So but Garrett, I mean, you've had a pretty remarkable life. So if you had to reflect on a couple of moments, what would you say your proudest moments have been?
So it's difficult to say. I think from an academic standpoint, it would be getting a PhD and qualifying as an actuary, and perhaps being entrusted to take on the role as professor and head of the actuarial unit at Stellenbosch University. Yeah, so those would have to be, from a career and academic standpoint, the high points.
From a sporting high point?
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, I did manage to win in my site category world titles in golf and in bowls, but it's the team sports. We've played in blind golf a version of the Ryder Cup, so it's a North America versus rest of the world, and it's been a privilege to have participated in that event, as one of the rest of the world players. It's one thing playing for yourself, but when you're playing for a team, it does ramp up the pressure somewhat. But it makes it all that much more enjoyable if things go well and the team wins. That they've been great.
That is really truly wonderful. So Peter, I'd like to really thank you for joining us this morning. And Garrett, I would really like to thank you for sharing your remarkable journey with us. Your passion for developing the next generation of actuaries, as well as their children, has been truly inspiring. We're wishing you all the best for the future. Any closing remarks?
Thank you. Well, just thanks to you and the team, and thanks to anyone who has listened to it. I hope they gained something from it. I'd maybe just like to say to people, starting out differently abled or not, I think it's always important to set goals. Try and set a target that is achievable, but also don't close yourself off to other opportunities that may come along. As I often say to students, one of the biggest strengths that actuarial students have is sometimes their biggest weakness, and that is this dogged determination to finish something they've started, which is great. I mean, you need that determination to see you through an actuarial qualification, but some of them take it too far, and other opportunities come along. Actuarial science is not for everybody, and sometimes they're quite blinkered and not opening up to other opportunities. So I think, just a general comment, set your targets, but don't be too blinkered to see if other opportunities come along your way.
Garrett and Peter, thank you again so much for joining us today. And we look forward to hopefully maybe talking to you again in the future. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.